I want to talk about the only team that we should be talking about. That's USC.
Oh, okay.
And let me just say this. This is what I'm tired about. This is what I'm tired of, Mark. These other teams in the Pac-12 have never represented the Pac-12. They've never, the biggest game that any team has won in the last, if you take when we were on sanctions and you go to all the way to the Lincoln Riley era, the biggest victory, you correct me if I'm wrong, is Oregon beating a measly Wisconsin in the Rose Bowl. You know USC's history of the Rose Bowl? We stomped everybody in the Rose Bowl. John David Booty beat Michigan. We were underdogs in that game, and we handled a Michigan team in the Rose Bowl. These other teams, their bar is so low as far as representing. So, this is what has triggered it. We keep talking about this Utah. USC has to beat Utah. We're gonna beat Utah. Okay, listen, I respect the coach, solid coach. They have a good team, but they haven't done anything. They went to the Rose Bowl and got ran through by Ohio State.
What is your definition of doing something? They haven't done anything.
What I mean is the Rose Bowl is not the bar. The bar is winning championships or at least getting to the playoffs.
When you say winning championships, you're talking about winning the national championship.
Yes.
Well, USC hasn't done that since 2004.
Of course. And what I'm saying is, what have other Pac-12 teams done to represent any high bar for the conference? They haven't done anything.
Well, that's why I started off with
other Pac-12 teams.
For a good stretch of time, Oregon was the best program in the conference, certainly under Chip Kelly. Nobody touched them, and Stanford was right there. Those were the two best programs. And I would argue the last time that the Pac-12 competed nationally was because of those two, not because of USC. Stanford won Rose Bowls, right? And Oregon won Rose Bowls. And Oregon went to two national championship games.
What did they need to do, though?
What did they need to do?
Yes, they needed to win those games. They lost to Auburn and they lost to Ohio State.
Sure. USC lost the last time they were in a championship game.
Again.
So USC was not considered elite, or they were just garbage trash when they lost to Texas. That's what we're saying here, right?
When USC lost to Texas, you mean the overtime game, the last second against
not
Vince Young, that game?
Not overtime, but yes, the last few seconds.
I mean, not overtime, but yeah, fourth quarter. What's your point about that?
My point is, based on your standard, that team didn't do anything. They weren't anything.
No. USC standard is higher than the rest of the conference. That's my point.
Apparently not.
Our
Apparently
how
not.
Is it not?
Well, you can
talk. Let's go over the stats.
Hang on.
Over the stats.
I know what the past is. Oh, we can go over a past. If you want to go through a past, what's Army's standard? What's Army's standard? We're talking about. You want to bring up the past? Army's standard is winning national championships. How far you want to go back? Exactly.
How far do you want to go back?
To the 1940s. Army had a past and a standard of winning national championships in the 1940s. So is that their standard now? Have
they done anything from the 40s to now to even talk about that
standard? Has USC done anything since 2004? Has USC done anything in the last 18 years?
Hey.
You could play this game. My point, I'm proving a point that you can use whatever time frame that you want that fits your narrative. The point is Oregon has had a much better football program for the last 10 or 12 years than USC has. So you're saying USC standard is winning national. Let me finish my statement, please. You're saying that USC standard is winning national championships. That's fine. That's a bunch of talk right now. It's not amounting to anything. Now we'll see what happens this season and going forward. And there's a lot of hope and optimism for obvious reasons. They're acquiring a ton of talent. But I'm not understanding your point. There have been other programs in the conference that have played better than USC in spurts over the last 10 or 12 years. But you're putting them down. You're putting them down because their standards aren't as high as USC. Apparently, they're not. In quotes, they're not.
Do you agree with that?
I don't know. I don't know what their state. I know that they've played better.
So if you have Utah and USC, they have equal standards.
I don't know what Utah. What? I haven't talked to Kyle Whittingham.
You know that.
Based on our perception as a public, you're right. USC would have a higher standard, but it's been forever since they've, based on your standard that you're stating, national championships.
I didn't only say national championship. What I said was, why are we scared of Utah? That's what I said.
Oh, well, I didn't know that you were scared of Utah. Well, they're better than USC at this very moment.
They're beatable.
I don't think anybody should be scared of them. Yes, of course they're beatable. They lost to San Diego State last year. They're not invincible by any stretch.
Exactly. So who else is representing the Pac-12? Let's eliminate USC. Who's representing for the Pac-12?
Who's the best program right now in the Pac-12? Well, as of last season, it was Utah.
Okay, and then what did Utah do beyond winning the conference?
They didn't do anything. They won the conference.
Well, don't you think some teams should at least win a high-level bowl game, or at least get to the playoff and win?
Absolutely. I don't know how much you watch me and my videos, but I say this all the time. The Pac-12 is the worst conference, and I would love to see the Pac-12 emerge and start to be competitive. Absolutely. The Pac-12 needs wins outside the conference.
There's only going to be one team that's going to do that.
I don't know. Yes, USC is the best candidate, but over the past 10 or 12 years, Oregon has been consistently the team that has been able to go outside the conference and be competitive. They're the best example of being competitive outside the conference.
That's not a good example.
Yeah, they're a good example. You're telling me that Oregon has not been the most competitive outside the conference in the last 10 or 12 years. They just beat Ohio State last year, one of the 5 best teams in the country. They've been to 2 national championship games. They beat an undefeated Florida State team in 2014 in the playoff.
Would you say that's their best game? Because I said it was Wisconsin. Was it the Florida State game? Would you say that
was their best game? Is that what you said?
What's their number one victory? Like, what would Oregon say? This is our best victory.
Oh, probably
winning a Pac-12.
Well, I think conference championships are much more valid than national championships. National championships are, you understand that we don't have a true playoff. We've got an invitational that's invited by a committee. So now that doesn't mean the conference champions are better than national champions. That's not what I just said. I'm saying that I put a lot of value in conference championships because they're valid. They're legit. There's a structured criteria to them. So since Oregon won a handful of conference championships in the last decade, those would be, to me, the biggest wins that they've had. They won a Rose Bowl. You talk about Rose Bowl. They just won a Rose Bowl. When you said the Wisconsin game, I thought you were talking about like 10 years ago. They won the Rose Bowl over Wisconsin. They also beat them a couple of years ago in the Rose Bowl.
No, I'm talking about the DeAnthony Thompson that Wisconsin.
Oh, yes, like against Russell Wilson. But they also beat him 2 years ago in the Rose Bowl. Oregon just won a Rose Bowl 2 years ago.
But check this out. USC won a Rose Bowl too. You see how the bar is way higher at USC. We just beat Penn State and nobody cares.
When you say nobody cares,
that's what I'm saying.
You're talking about USC fans don't care?
I'm talking about USC. We won a Rose Bowl against Penn State, and that was a damn good Penn State team, by the way.
Sure it was.
They had a nice running back.
Okay. So you're saying that meant nothing?
I'm saying that's the equivalent of Oregon's Rose Bowl victory over Wisconsin.
Sure. So I thought both were great games, and they were. I'm not getting your point in all this. You're basically stating that USC's got this amazing bar, but they haven't reached it for 18 years. So you can talk all you want about. Yeah, it's like some, not all, check me right here, Miami fans out there, but some Miami fans talk about their great bar that they have for winning championships. Well, Kansas can say we've got our bar is winning championships, but if you never come close to it, then big deal. You can talk all the time about your standard, but if you're not even USC win the division, start there. Don't even talk about winning national championships, because if USC stepped on a field with one of those other top teams in the nation right now, they would get their doors blown off. Win the division first. Start there. That should be the standard right now.
We'll do that. We're going to do that pretty soon.
Okay, win the division. Well, it's not a division, but, get to the championship game. They abolished the divisions, but get to the conference championship game.
We'll do that. We're going to do that. There's no doubt about that.
Great. I want to see it first. Great.
Okay. Well, I'll bank more on USC than these other conference teams, these other teams that you want to rep, like Oregon.
You're dealing in conjecture, trajectory, and speculation. I'm dealing in the facts that you're talking about a standard, and I am giving you a program in Oregon that has achieved more than USC in the last 15 years. Those are facts, right? Yeah, it's not even debatable. They've won more conference championships. They've won more major bowl games. They've played in 2 national championship games. They've achieved more than USC.
Damn near equal.
Am I correct?
Every time Oregon could go undefeated, they would lose to Stanford. So I mean, I'm not impressed by Oregon.
So
you can be impressed by Oregon.
When USC could have, I didn't say I was impressed or not impressed. you're telling me USC is the standard of the Pac-12, and I'm showing you a program that's been better than USC for the last 10 or 12 years. And it's not even debatable. It's not even a question. I'm not saying they're better now. I'm not saying that they will be better this year, but I'm saying they've been better for the last 10 or 12 years. Right? Am I correct in stating that? Has Oregon been a better program and a better football team over the last 10 or 12 years than USC? Yes.
And when I started the conversation, I said the other teams never represent the Pac-12. I started off with about the other team.
Okay. So where do we stand on this? That USC is going to win the national.
Who do you think is going to win the Pac-12? Who do you think is going to win the Pac-12?
I haven't made my prediction yet. I'm not making a prediction tonight on who's going to win the Pac-12. Somebody held a gun to my head.
Well,
I'd have to think.
No, but you know who I say is going to win.
I'd have to think hard about Utah and USC. So I think they're the 2 best teams in the conference.
You already know who I say is going to win it.
Sure. Okay. Great.
And then if Utah does win it, how far will Utah go?
How far will they go? I don't know. How far in the playoff? I don't even know that they would make the playoff. They'll probably play in the Rose Bowl again. I don't have a whole lot of confidence that Utah is going to make the playoff, even if they win the Pac-12.
Damn, that's a low bar.
It's a low bar, but it's still higher than what USC's achieved over the last 15 years.
Oh, yeah, but we're coming, though. We're coming.
All right, you're coming. Well,
and then here's another point.
Okay, one more point. Lay it on me.
The other caller mentioned USC losing to Oregon, and that game prevented us from playing Florida. Right? Wasn't there
Oregon State? Oregon State. Yes.
Yeah. Oregon State beat us. That was Mark Sanchez. I wouldn't say we got trounced, but they definitely ran the ball on us. Right? It's that.
No, they didn't get trounced. It was like 33-30 or something like that. Okay.
Exactly. That was my point about, it wasn't trounced.
Well, people throw that term around all over the place when it's like a 1-score game, but that's what fans do.
Did Florida go undefeated that year?
No.
They lost to what? Ole Miss, right?
Yes, in 08. If we're talking about 08, if we're talking about 06, I think they lost to LSU.
Yeah, I think it was the Tebow speech year where they lost to Ole Miss, and he did the whole speech. All I'm saying is to that guy who called, I feel that it was an unfair expectation for every Pac-12 for USC basically to go undefeated. So during those years, if Pete Carroll's team didn't go undefeated, then they would play these little games, whereas everybody in the SEC or these other conferences would lose like one game and still be in the championship. So that we missed out on one of the greatest championship games that could have been, which would have been Mark Sanchez, that USC team versus Tebow in Florida.
I agree.
There's no reason why we shouldn't still be in that game with the we lost on a road on a Friday by like 3 points. So I just wanted to say that last point for that last caller
sure.
who just threw it out there as narrative like Oregon State trounced us and that's why we didn't play Florida. We could have easily been put in that game against Tebow.
You could have been. Yes. Other teams could have been too. Yeah. Penn State only had one loss. We went through championship years a couple weeks ago on here and went through every year. And absolutely, USC, they could have been in the championship game in 08. Absolutely. 07 cool. And 08.